Hello, football fanatics, and welcome to the Real Talk FC. Now, the reason why I'm calling you football fanatics is because you're watching two random guys talking about football. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, and we are football fanatics ourselves. So please do join us. I know if you've watched our previous shows, we've touched more on Arsenal and Man United because I'm an Arsenal fan, and my co-host, which I'm going to introduce right now, is a United fan. So if you want to talk about your team, then join us. The information will be in the description. So email address and Twitter handles. Get in touch, and yeah, and you can come on and we can talk about your team, even if it's Spurs. So goals galore this weekend. 44 goals scored, a Premier League record, if I'm not mistaken. So that was one hell of a weekend of Premier League results. Trev, bro, welcome back. How are you feeling? How did you enjoy? Not so much, but how's your
Yeah, I'm,
weekend?
I'm spectacular. Absolutely love this weekend. Personal highlight was Palace's third goal. I think that's what I enjoyed the most out of this weekend. So, aside from the result, it was a good weekend of football. Like you said, the most goals scored in a Premier League round. So we have lots to talk about, and I think lots of good points for us to have a chat about stuff that happened during this last game week.
Yep, definitely. And you know what? Let's get straight into it. Let's start with United. 3-1 lost to Crystal Palace. Not a great start for your team. What did you make of that game?
I think VAR was pathetic. I think the grass wasn't cut fine enough. And I think that the wind was blowing in a southeasterly direction. And I think basically you're not now. I know you and I have spoken about this, and I think um, you mentioned being unprepared. I think that was a factor in it. I there's a couple of things that I want to touch on about that performance. So the one is the lack of readiness. That being said, I don't think that is the main reason for the result against Palace. I think conviction is the word that I would that I would focus on, and the player that I would focus on is Paul Pogba. I am a massive Paul Pogba fan, and throughout all of
So
the
am I,
drama surrounding him,
surprisingly.
throughout all of the drama surrounding him and his agent Mino Raiola, I've always thought that Pogba is a fantastic footballer and is definitely able to contribute towards Man United going forward. That being said, I think Palace was the worst performance that I have seen him put in a Man United shirt. And it comes back to the word conviction. It was disappointing because of a lack of belief in passes. He gave the ball away several times, and I have no problem with creative players giving a football away, because if you're going to take a chance, there's a chance that it's not going to work. If it doesn't work, at least you're trying to make things happen. He was making 2-meter sideways passes and under hitting them half-heartedly. That's why I come back to conviction. I think that if you're going to do something, whether it's right, if you're going to shoot from 45 yards, hit it properly. Don't hit it halfway and think it's probably not going to go in. It's definitely not going to go in if you think that. So I think for me, the disappointing part about the performance, Pogba in particular, but the team in general, was conviction. I thought they weren't at the races. And yeah, there's a lot of improvement to come from Man United if they want to finish in the top four this season.
So just to add
And
on that, I'm just going to ask you, so what positions do you think United need going into, well, the
so
season's already
so
started,
that
but
that
to improve?
that fits in. That fits in with my second point. I think uh, over and above conviction, Man United cannot break down a team that sits with a deep backline. It's not this season. It's not Palace. It's been happening for a while now. And when Man United fans are clamoring for Jadon Sancho, uh, I don't even know Jadon Sancho. I've not watched a lot of German football. So it's not like I'm sitting here and going, oh, this kid's wonderful. I watched him week after week. It's not that. It's the attributes that he has. When a team is sitting deep, Sancho can take on a left back, get round the back, and square something for the likes of Martial and Rashford. So position number one is, for me, a winger. I know our defense is not the greatest in the world, or wasn't the greatest in the world against Palace, but for me, it's pointless us going and buying another centre back if we can't score goals. If a team sits back against us, we're useless, we're toothless, and we're never going to get in behind teams. So I think for me, the main focus in this transfer window needs to be that winger. Centre back would be nice. I think Lindelof had a bad game. That being said, I think he was unlucky with the handball decision. I know it's the
I
rules,
was
and I'm not
definitely
arguing
going
that.
to talk about that.
Yeah, it's the rules, and it's the way the rules are structured. I hold nothing against the referee. I think he was following the decisions that Atkinson has to follow. Those are the regulations put in place by the FA. David De Gea, his foot is raised above the line. It's not touching grass. It's an annoyance, but it's not wrong. So yeah, no excuses. I think that we need to get a winger in who can unlock a defense, and we need to be more. We need to show more conviction in what we're trying to do as a football team when we're going forward, and we need players like Paul Pogba to step up when they're doing that.
Okay, yeah, well, you made some really great points. I watched the game too, and I agree with most of what you said. With regards to the handball rule that they've changed, I don't get it. This means now they're going forward, strikers are just going to shoot on defenders' hands in the box
Yeah,
and get a penalty. I mean, did no one sit down and think about this
yeah.
rule and be like,
I
hello, this is going to encourage. I understand why they're doing that. They want to, make it a more basically add more goals to the game, but it doesn't. It takes away. I mean, for me, it's almost like cheating. Like you're gonna try get a penalty now, shooting into some. I know it's a rule, so it's not really cheating, but I don't know. It just takes away something from the game, and
Yeah,
I'm not
I agree with
happy with
you.
that rule.
I think that the main confusion on my part is, I get the part if your hand is extended from your body. I completely understand that, and I agree with that. And Lindelof's hand was extended from his body. So again, I don't have an argument with that. My the part that confuses me is, does distance no longer matter? So if a player is less than a meter away from you and shoots, you don't have the time to stick your hand either behind your back or in line with your body. That's the part for me that doesn't make sense. I do agree that a player
Also, the
shouldn't have his hand
referees are
extended.
watching. When they go to the screen, they're watching it in
Yeah,
slow mo. So in
yeah,
slow mo, it feels like the player has enough time to move his hand.
yeah.
Oh,
Good point.
yeah, but in
Good point.
reality, I mean, I mean, even though the football players, they're not supermen. They can't move the
Yeah.
hand out of like in an instant. So yeah, that is. Yeah, well, we'll see. There'll be a lot of controversy going again with VAR this season.
Um,
So,
Before we move on, the last thing that I do want to touch on about the Man United performance, and I'm going to touch on it very briefly, is the board need to back the manager here, and we need to stop. Rio Ferdinand, Patrice Evra have come out, Gary Neville have come out quite fervently in the last couple of days, and I hope somebody at the football club realized that our transfers have been an absolute shambles. We need players. We need to be able to strengthen the squad. Otherwise, Man United are in trouble this season.
well, the transfer window is still open, so that might still change. Well, let's move on and we'll talk about the Arsenal game. Just a narrow victory over West Ham. Like last week, I said it was a very comfortable performance. against Fulham, but that was not the case this weekend. Um, yeah, to their credit, I think West Ham played really well, and they came again. It's similar issues with the United when teams are playing on a low block. We struggle to break them down, but in this instance, we did. And for me, I know there was not a lot of players performed really well, but I have to give another shout out to Gabriel Magalash or Magalas. I think once again he was really, really commanding and solid, and the goal that we conceded had nothing to do with him. That was more of players like Kolasinac and Xhaka backing out from across, and then Rob Holding getting beaten, almost out muscled by um, Antonio, which will happen quite a few times this season because Antonio is a massive player and he does cause a lot of chaos in the box. Overall, I think for me it's very difficult very difficult to determine who the man of the match was, but I would give it to Saka because he had crucial parts in both our goals. Um, Very Cesc Ozil like passing from him to basically, if you want to call it a pre-assist. So the first one was to Aubameyang, who chipped it to Lacazette. Lacazette finished it with a brilliant header, and the second one with I think it was an outside of the foot pass to Dani Ceballos, who made the run into the box. Credit to Ceballos for making that run because our midfielders don't do that enough, and you need to create space in behind the defenders so that that's how one of the ways to break teams down was sitting on a low block, and we didn't do that enough. Our passing was quite off. Defensively we looked a bit shaky, but as soon as the team news came out, and I think most Arsenal fans heard that Tierney was injured, I think we already knew that it's not going to be such an easy game. So my prediction from last week, the 4-0, went down the drain immediately. But overall, we got the win, and that's what's most important. 2 wins. There are bigger challenges that will be up ahead. Liverpool next, but we will talk about that in our preview show. So please look out for that. Yeah, and looking at obviously we have to talk about the big game over the weekend. Liverpool Chelsea. Liverpool, I would say comfortable. 2-0 winners over Chelsea, a 10-man Chelsea. I need to add that. And bro, you predicted that, so well done. That was a spot on prediction. Did you watch the game? What did you think of the game?
Yeah. I watched the game, and to be honest, I think before the sending off, both teams looked lively. Both teams looked dangerous. I thought that Timo Werner's off the ball running was very strong. I thought that he created a lot of space down that left channel, which then in turn opened up for Kai Havertz on the other side. So I thought it was quite an open game before the sending off. I thought Christensen knew exactly what he was doing for
That
that
was a
sending off.
rugby
I saw it.
tackle. Oh, wow.
Yeah, I think it'd be interesting to know what the rule is, or if there's a rule. The only reason that I can think of the referee not giving him a straight red card was because he was reliant on VAR to confirm
That's a
that
good
Mane
point,
wasn't going to get
actually.
to the ball. Because I think when all of us were watching it,
That's a
professional foul
straight
was the
red, right?
first word. Yeah, that went through all of our minds. So I don't know whether there's a rule that if it is a straight red, VAR are not allowed to overturn it, or something like
I
that.
think
But
no,
yeah, I
they
thought,
can overturn it. They can. So they would look at it again. If it's a straight red, if it's 2 yellows, that's different. Um, I
okay,
just think you made a good point that maybe the ref was just trying to see if to have to give VAR a
give
chance to look. But
Christensen a chance. Yeah,
yeah, but either way, it was a red card, and rightly so. I think Mane would have scored anyway because I think
yeah,
Mane, for me, is the best player in that Liverpool team, and I think you agree with
yeah.
that.
Look,
I've seen.
yeah. So I number one, I've stuck with Mane in my fantasy team
Me too, man.
because
Me
of
too.
that. Yeah, because I think Mo Salah is gifted beyond belief. But I think Sadio Mane he's a fantastic player. He's got a little bit of everything, and over and above having a little bit of everything, he's got temperament. And I think in big games, he is Liverpool's man. Um, something that I do want to touch on. You mentioned that even if they didn't have a man set off, Sadio Mane probably still would have gotten his goal. I do think Liverpool will still come away with the win. I think what's worrying for me, and I know from a Chelsea point of view, I know there's still lots of time. It's only been 2 games for the new signings. They don't have Ziyech, I think you pronounce it.
Yeah.
Pulisic is not fit as yet. So they do have players to still come into this team. Timo Werner's off the ball running is fantastic. Running with the ball is fantastic. I'm not convinced about his finishing in the Premier League as yet. There was one particular chance that he had. Kai Havertz squared it to him. Havertz was offside. Havertz was offside. And I know Chelsea fans are going to say maybe Werner knew that Havertz was offside, so he didn't put as much conviction, that word again, into the finish. But I think there's something missing for me about Timo Werner's finishing right now. Like I said, it's 180 minutes, so there's lots of time for him to put that right. But I think that would be an area of concern for me if I was.
Out of the two, Werner and Havertz, I think Werner looks more ready for the Premier League.
Yeah.
Havertz, again, I know it's still early days, but he looks so off the pace in both the games. And I think there will be. He is also quite young, so it's going to take time for him to gel.
I think we touched on that in our
you said that
first week video. That
it's
Chelsea. One of the reasons we didn't pick them to push City and Liverpool is because it is going to take time for these
There's
new players.
There's no team in the league that can buy 8 players and immediately start clicking. Yes. When has that ever happened in the Premier League? Very rarely.
That being said, it's not the same situation, but. Again, to refer back to our first video, the link will be down below for you to have a look. I mentioned that I wasn't sure about Liverpool retaining this title because I felt it strange that Jurgen Klopp didn't get a couple of signings in this window, and 2 weeks later, Thiago and Jota have walked through into.
Do you know what? After
Anfield.
The window finishes, we'll do another prediction video because we'll know what players every team has, and I'm pretty sure we're gonna have quite a few changes in our prediction. Also, they will have played a few games, and we'll have a chance to look at each team. But I think we should move on.
I completely agree.
A special mention to the best keeper in the league, Kepa. I think he was wonderful. I think 70 million was a steal.
I agree with you. How he's not past the 100 million mark it just beggars belief.
I think of the Premier League, the biggest flop. Is there a shot for that?
I think a 70 million price tag, and I think it's not just making errors. It's the level to which these errors. It's pathetic. Let's be honest. He's number one. He's passed the ball to Mane. But even worse than that, as a goalkeeper, I think the commentator mentioned this during the match. You can't be making straight passes to your defenders across your own box. At the very least, you should be going out to your right back or your left back. He tried to pass it directly in front of him and gave it to Mane, who was in his line of vision. I think for me, 70 million to make that caliber of mistakes.
Consistently mistakes. That's the thing. I mean, every keeper will have a shocker now and then, but to make him consistently, well, good luck, Chelsea. Anyways, let's move on to.
In his next match, he should argue with Lampard. If Lampard tries to start him the same way, he should refuse to start the next game.
Yeah, that would be hilarious. Moving on. Everton beat West Brom comprehensively 5-2. Calvert-Lewin with a hat-trick. And he is looking quite a player under Carlo Ancelotti. I think Carlo Ancelotti is getting the best out of him. I was watching the interview with him, and he said that Inzaghi scored because Inzaghi played under Ancelotti, right?
At
And he
AC
said
Milan.
at
Yeah.
AC Milan, and he said, obviously, he's not comparing him to exactly Inzaghi, but he said if you score with your first touch, you'll get many goals. And if you see in that game, Calvin Lewin scored with 3 first touches, which was amazing.
Um,
Yeah,
I think this was said about Filippo Inzaghi, if I'm not mistaken. But you don't need a second touch if you score with your first touch.
exactly.
And if he's in the right position all the time, with Rodriguez and Richarlison and Allen and Decore and Lucas Dean, Calvin Lewin could get a
That
lot of goals this season.
Yep, that's a good shot for fantasy, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then Leeds Fulham 4-3. The one thing we all know now is it's going to be
Leeds are
fun
entertaining.
watching Leeds. Another 7-goal thriller. They will score a lot of goals, but they will concede a lot too. So if you have nothing to do on the weekend, definitely watch Leeds because you will get your money's worth. And then Southampton Spurs beating them 5-2. A game of two halves. The first half, I
Korean
think,
Ronaldo.
yeah, he definitely is. Should play for a bigger club, but anyway, the first half I think was quite close, and I think Southampton had the better chances. And then in the second half, it was the Son show. Well, Harry Kane also with 4 assists and a goal, so it was the Kane and Son show. But I don't understand, um, as a coach, as a professional football player, right? If you concede one goal, you try to analyze quickly in your head, okay, why did we concede that goal during the game, right? If you concede second goal the same way and the third goal, surely by the fourth goal you need to realize that there is something wrong. And the problem was so obvious. They were playing such a high line. All Kane did was drop between the defenders and the midfield, pick up the ball, put it over the top for Son, goal. If you watch the highlights, you'll think that they're 4 identical goals that Son scored, almost, or at least 3 of them. And I think, Southampton didn't rectify that. And
That's a great point, and I think that's worrying for Saints fans because that shows a lack of adaptability from the players on the field and the manager himself to not be able to recognize that back line, like you mentioned earlier, needs to be put into a low block system to stop that from happening.
I know they're really good at
definitely a
pressing,
worry.
right? They are good at pressing, but then if you press high and they're beating your press by one long ball, you need to drop a little bit deeper each time to realize, okay, this is not working now. And it's not like Southampton weren't creating chances. So if they like you said, with a deep block and they defended well, Danny Ings can score at any point in time. I think he's a really good striker. So they missed a trick there, but that's 3 points for Spurs. Excuse me. Brighton beating Newcastle 3-0. Again, I didn't expect that. Neil
It's
Moore
going to be
with
another
2
season
goals.
of ups and downs for it, isn't for Newcastle, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
They've got last week they looked quite good, and this week they looked quite bad.
They'll be a topsy-turvy
Once again,
team.
Newcastle are going to be very topsy-turvy sort of season for them, I think.
Yep, definitely. And then Leicester beating Burnley 4-2. I think that was a really good game. Again, 6-goal thriller. Did you see Pratt's goal?
Yes.
That was a
Yes.
banger. Absolute banger.
And I'm absolutely gutted. And for anyone that listened to this video last week, the game was at 3:15 my time in China. So I woke up, saw the scoreline, and thought to myself, Captain Jamie Vardy, you legend. Opened the Premier League app. Jamie Vardy didn't get a single goal or an assist. Leicester scored 4. So
I triple captain Aubameyang, and he got 1 assist. So it wasn't the worst.
You triple captain Aubameyang?
Yeah. So the moral of the story is don't listen to our fantasy tips. But we will give them anyway. So maybe you should do what we tell you to do and do the opposite. And then that would help. And Aston Villa yesterday beating Sheffield United, 10-man Sheffield United 1-0. Emi Martinez with a save, so I'm happy for Emi.
Yeah,
You're a Villa player, so good luck. But yeah, that's that. City, I watched the first half of the game, 3-1 winners over Wolves. They looked very comfortable. Kevin De Bruyne again, my God, what a player. I mean,
yeah,
if any team has a player like that, wow. I mean, he was running the midfield, the forward attacks, everything. He does everything. He will be. I don't know if he was, but he is the captain of the team. Without Aguero, Silva, company gone, he's now one of the most experienced players. I know there's Fernandinho in there, but in terms of his quality and his footballing intelligence, he's for me he's the best player in the league. But yeah, so those were the results,
I think
and
what's scary about Man City, if you're one of the other 18 teams in the league, not counting Liverpool, Liverpool have nothing to be scared about. If you're one of the other 18 teams in the league, Riyad Mahrez never left the bench, and City walked that game against Wolves, a Wolves team that are star
they are
star
pretty
studded.
good.
They're
Yeah,
they're they're not a walkover in any way, shape, or form. Yeah, and Mahrez sat on the bench and watched his teammates destroy Wolves. So I think the other 18 teams have a lot of catching up to do to get anywhere close to Liverpool and Man City this season.
definitely. Yeah, and we'll see. Still a few weeks left in the transfer window. We'll see what happens. And I think that was all the results from the weekend. And what a crazy weekend that was, full of goals. And that's why the Premier League is the best league in the world. A few shock results, lots of goals, and only two clean sheets. I mean,
Yeah,
defending. There's
the lost art
anti-defending
of
now.
defending. Yeah, the
um,
lost art of
I think it's
defending.
full out attack. So for the neutrals or for people who just like watching football, that's great news. And on that note, I think we will say goodbyes, and please look out for our previous show for the next round of fixtures, week 3. Triv will join me again. So, and thank you for coming on, Triv. Hopefully next week you will be a little bit happier with your team's performance.
Do you really mean that? Do
Not
you, when you
really.
say hopefully, do you really mean that?
Of course not, man.
Let's
You know,
not
you
lie
know
to
me long
anybody.
enough. Yeah,
Let's
I'm
not
just
lie
playing.
to anybody
I'm just trying to
watching
be a
this.
little bit professional here, but of course not. I would be very happy if you came here and started ranting about United again. But we will talk more about that in the next show. So, everyone, take care, all you fanatics out there, and we will see you all soon.